No, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you guys about what we do and an area of concentration. And I'm really committed to leave you with a lot of value and good seeds to support the opportunity of your business. Like Cecilia was saying, my name is Giovanni Gonzalez, and I'm originally from Colombia. I also lived in Belize for a while. I was born in Colombia and I grew up in Belize, and I've been here for about 20 years. And the traditional school that I did, I actually went to school here in Kennesaw. Went to Kennesaw State University, and I did undergraduate international business with a concentration in international business, international affairs, and then I got a master's later on at Strayer with the science of management and leadership. And the journey has led me to become really passionate about businesses and the opportunity that businesses are, because there is, I don't know, maybe 8 billion people go to work every day. And that's really where a lot of us spend most of our life. And I found it to be a great purpose for me to focus on elevating the quality of life of people at work. And so today's conversation, we are going to focus on the two main things that I have found my self-expression in the world of business. And this is I always like to start by introducing a picture of my grandparents. I actually grew up with them. My parents were like 16 and 17 when I was born. So they were quite young to take on the opportunity of a child. So I grew up with them, and this is my grandmother. She's still alive. I'm going to go see her next week. And she really taught me, I always like to say that she taught me everything I needed to know to be a good person. I forgot most of it, right? But it wasn't her fault, right? They did a beautiful job in providing support for the opportunity. And this is my family now, right? This is my two kids, my mom, and my girlfriend, and we live here in Smyrna. And so that's I guess that's a little bit about myself. And this is some of the pictures of the work that I've had the chance to do. I've had the chance to work in Africa, working with the third largest mine in the world, providing leadership development and consulting. I've had the chance to work in South America. I'm actually next week going to Colombia, and we're going to do some work with the police force in leadership development and communication and effectiveness in communication. And I've worked in Haiti, I've worked in the Caribbean, and here in North America, I've worked with companies like MetLife and some keynote at SunTrust and different Fortune 500 companies, and mostly in the context of leadership development and some in the context of marketing. Because people, in my view, in the self-expression of our business, it's people have a real challenge in working together, right? Everybody has a commitment. However, our commitment doesn't necessarily translate to being able to work with other people. So that's where we get to support. And also, I've done, now I do a lot of work with small business owners, and one of the biggest, if you will, one of the biggest focus, the main area of focus is to gather new clients. How do I get more clients, right? So I understand that I only have about 25 minutes or so. So anything that I could say is going to be just a tip of the iceberg of the opportunity of these two worlds. And maybe some of you even know more about these two worlds than I do, or that could create different insights. However, I am mostly committed to leave you with things that you can really use later. Like, I'm mostly committed to leave you with questions rather than answers or solutions. Just, you and I are used by our questions, not necessarily by the answers. Does that make sense? Right? And my intention is to be able to make this as interactive as possible. That way we can discover something, right? Yes? Yes. That was the interactive part. So, in some degree, all of us are looking for a breakthrough, right? That's what we're all looking for, right? Raise your hand if you're looking for a breakthrough, right? We're all looking for a breakthrough. And one of the things that causes a breakthrough is when we have an insight into what limits us. So it's not necessarily, a breakthrough doesn't necessarily come from more information, because this is definitely the era of information. We have, I don't know what the stats are now, but it's around 1.4 billion websites on Google. So you could say there's a lot of information, and there's over 500 hours uploaded on YouTube with information every minute. And so our knowledge is doubling every 12 hours or so. So, and for most of us, for most people, it's actually accessed free, all of that. So information for what we're looking for to cause a breakthrough in our business is not necessarily what's missing. Does that make sense? Perhaps it's our relationship with the opportunity of the information, which is different than the information, and our relationship with the opportunity of working with others. Perhaps that's not being translated. And so my attempt today is to give some insight to the opportunity of that. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Now, as I was mentioning, there are two critical aspects, two critical skills to master for a leader, particularly if you're a small business leader. If you're a leader for a larger organization, then you're definitely delegating some of this, right? But one of the aspects is creating an environment for high performance so that people can actually bring the best that they can. And then the other one is creating innovative marketing strategies. So we're going to be looking at perhaps those two. Now, when we look at leadership, I always like to say this. This is what I have found useful in every industry that I've had the chance to work with, whether it's been here at the hospitals, or whether it's with law firms, or whether it is with a construction company, or whether it's with engineers. That for the most part, there is a kind of a blind spot when we're leading others, because usually it's difficult to separate two worlds, the way I lead myself and the way I lead others to create effective action. And usually leaders tend to lead others the way they lead themselves, usually. And that doesn't necessarily cause high performance. So maybe some of you right now are laid back. How many of you are rather laid back? Right? You've noticed that when you're laid back, you lead others in a laid back way, right? And that doesn't necessarily causes the structure necessary for high performance. Or in some leaders or managers, or when I say leader, individuals who are committed to something, are really determined. You will do anything that there is to do to get the job done. Even if it's working at 3 a.m, right? Some of you are here, right? Some of you are here. Raise your hand if you're like that. You will do whatever it takes. Nobody here? There's usually a few like that, right? And we lead others that way, and it usually causes a breakdown, right? So there's a whole world of difference, and in the discovery of the difference, I get to be effective with other people. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. Here's one of the biggest, here's an image I always love showing, and it's so powerful, it's so profound that we tend to miss it. When we're leading others, right now I'm really mainly focusing on the opportunity of leadership in this conversation. When we're leading others, what gets in the way of effective leadership? It's my point of view. Now, that sounds really simple, and too simplistic to actually maybe embrace the opportunity of what I'm pointing to. So, but I want you to consider and just kind of play with me that whenever there is a struggle in communication, whenever there is a friction, think of someone you have a friction with, or some relationship where you're not necessarily causing leadership. Things are not moving forward, right? It's usually, or I would like to say, always a function of a point of view, not a function of the people that you're working with. Because people get stuck with their point of view, or you and I get stuck. When I say people, I'm including myself. You and I get stuck with a point of view. And when we get stuck with a point of view, we're not necessarily generous. A lot of times we get stuck with looking for the truth. And the truth doesn't cause leadership. It doesn't cause people to work together. And so this is what usually happens. If you're here, right, you're a high performer, you get up early, you deal with traffic, you deal with the morning. Some of you have children, so you dealt with your children, you dropped them off before you got here. And you're functional human beings, and you're making money. So basically you're successful people, right? And you know what you're doing. So consider that you are kind of like one of the scientists in terms of your industry, one of these scientists, that sometimes we get so close to what we're already doing that we can't see the big elephant of what we're doing. And it's also true for our families. So we get too close to our significant other that we can't see the person anymore. And so when you are creating a project, or when you are causing a campaign, or when you're moving the ball forward, you and I get stuck with a view that gives you a wall. Basically, you're looking at an area of your business and you say, this is the way that it is. And someone tells you, no, that's not how it is. I actually see an elephant. And then you'll say, well, that's really a wall. And then one of the things that don't come across when you're reading the books, or when you're looking at YouTube videos, or when you're going to seminars, one of the things that don't come across is how much stuck I am with my point of view, and how much it prevents me from actually having options when working with people. And the other person says, no, but it's an elephant. And usually what happens in an area where we're working with people, how many of you work with people? You have to work with people, right? Usually what happens when you're working with people is that I tell you, remind me your name? Beatriz. I tell Beatriz, it really is a wall what I'm looking at. And Beatriz says, no, it really is it's a leg, it's a snake, it's a tree. And I say, no, it's not. And she says, yes, it is. And, no, it's not. Yes, it is. And what usually happens is that I take my marbles, we become children, I take my marbles and I go away and I find somebody who agrees with my point of view. And so I only stick around people that sees my point of view, rather the opportunity of what your business presents or the project presents. Does that make sense? Yes. So we really get stuck with that. So with this, the opportunity of this conversation, what I like to leave with is this question. Not whether you get stuck. The question is not whether you get stuck with a point of view. The question that I like to leave you with is, in what areas am I stuck with my point of view? Yeah, because a function of growing a business, a function of having more customers, it's not the strategy, it's a function of a point of view. Does that make sense? A function of not working with people together, it's not the people, it's a function of my point of view. I work with a lot of physicians, and they're really stuck with a point of view about the nurses. And then also the other way around. They're stuck with a point of view. And my whole life, it's around looking for evidence for my point of view, rather than for the opportunity of a relationship. Does that make sense? Yeah? So when I get to work with teams and work with organizations and create a conversation of the opportunity of loosening up the grip of leadership and loosen up the grip of point of view, I always like to bring this kind of drawing for us to distinguish something. And this is kind of a funny one. I actually created it, the jerk syndrome. I say, no, this is what I'm saying is not the truth, right? I'm just saying something. I say that people are rather jerks. Like you and I are rather jerks. And I say, it's not the truth, okay? I'm not calling you a jerk. You're going to get the point. And I say that it is because of an inherited, I don't know what to call it, an inherited view, an inherited notion, something that we are born with as human beings. And I'm going to present the notion for that. Do you guys remember when you were in first grade? You remember when you were first grade? That was a long time ago for some of us, right? First grade. Try to remember the city that you were born. Try to remember the school that you attended, right? You remember the city where you were born? Yeah, you remember the city where you're saying, no, I don't remember. Of course you remember the city you were born, right? And you went to a school. Do you guys remember the school that you were born? Okay, so this is kind of like bringing the memories. Now, when you were in first grade and you were playing around, the same thing for me, all of a sudden there was this one particular day when they called you and they said, hey, congratulations. Now you're going to second grade. And at that moment, the moment you went to second grade, you created a notion about the first graders. What was that? Who the first graders became for you the very moment that you went to a second grade? Subordinates, right? What else?
The little kids.
The little ones. And you and I just got to second grade. We just did. But all of a sudden, naturally, there was no meeting. Your parents didn't come to you and say, from this point forward, the first graders are the subordinates. The first graders are the little ones. They're the mature ones. It just happened like that. Can you see that? And then what happened when you were a second grader and then you went to third grade? Same thing. You were just in second grade. And you went to third grade and the second graders became stupid people. They don't really know. Now, what happened to the first graders? What happened to the relationship between the third grader and a first grader? There isn't one. We don't even talk to them. We don't even see them. Right? And it happens like this. Now, one would think that only happens when you are in kindergarten or in primary school. It happens the same thing at work. There is the entry-level person, and you and I get along very well. We're both in the computers. We're both in the cubicle. And all of a sudden, I get a promotion, a manager. And I get a promotion because I'm really good at what I do. But the moment I get a promotion, the co-workers become kind of a first grader. And now all of a sudden, I know something that you don't know. All of a sudden, I know something you don't know. And then I go and I become a regional manager. Now I really know something. Like I really know something. And the first graders, or the first level, I don't even talk to them anymore. Second graders, you got to talk to the first graders. And we do that in the marketplace, in the workplace. So this kind of distancing, this kind of relationship in which we start separating ourselves doesn't allow for an alignment in the opportunity that the company is. Does that make sense? It doesn't cause an alignment. And so people no longer see the mission of the company and the opportunity of where the company is or the purpose for the company. They no longer see it. They only see what they're there for. If they're there to pay for the kids' education, that's what they're there for. To pay the bills, that's what they're there for. To just hold on to this job for a little bit until I get a better job, that's what they're there for. But the opportunity and the alignment to a mission that actually penetrates the marketplace and leaves a legacy, the people in the organization doesn't see it because of this kind of a natural jerk syndrome. Make sense? So that's a little bit of something to think about. A little bit of something to think about. And I always like to say this. I don't remember who I heard it from, but I always love to say it. Adults with words are as dangerous as children with scissors. Like, we're not quite responsible for the impact of what comes out of our mouth in the context of leadership, in the context of alignment, in the context of the opportunity of working together. We're not quite responsible, casual, if you will. And we create a mess. And then we don't know how to clean it up. And then human beings say things like, well, that's just the way I am. Or we get stuck with a point of view. Like, oh, it's just how it is. Make sense? So that everything, all the dust that I'm bringing up right now, I'm bringing up a lot of dust, yeah? That's the point. To bring up a lot of dust and to leave you something to think about so that that all those questions that we're creating right now allows for something to ponder and to be in the inquiry so that when you go to your workplace, you start seeing yourself and asking yourself different questions. And maybe you see yourself getting stuck with a point of view, like, ooh, I'm stuck with a point of view. You can see your emotions about it. And then you can see how I'm being a jerk with someone I just met because I think I know more. All of that begins to loosen up the grip of your own humanity. Make sense? And what you'll find surprising is that it will cause breakthrough results in your business. That's what you'll find surprising. Everything that I'm bringing up here. Now let's talk about marketing a little bit, right? This is a big conversation. Working with people, big conversation. If you and I can't work with people, there's only so far we can go. There's always that old saying, by ourselves we can go fast, but with people we can go far. Right? So that was that. Any questions about that? Not really? Not questions, no inquiries? Just a lot to think about?
Well, this is our world. This is what we.
This is your world, yeah.
This is what we dive into every day. So, absolutely, it's impressive when you go interact just for a day. When you interact with someone, whether it's a cashier, whether it's somebody at the gas pumps, whether it's whatever, just calling them by their name and just acknowledging that they're a human being and not just a cashier or a bagger or an attendant of something. I actually had somebody say thank you. They had such a rough day in just being acknowledged. So to find something nice to say about something gets you out of your own head and your own crap that you're going through and brings you back to the fundamentals of humanity. Just finding something in all of us. There's something in all of us that's great. Just having somebody to be able to point one thing out to you that you may not see in yourself just makes you feel, and who knows, that person may become someone that's interested in your business, but that wasn't your intent in the first place. It was just a connection, but now you made such a connection, they wanna do business with you.
Yeah, and one of the I do a lot of consulting with companies, and usually when they bring me in is because the culture, it's really affecting performance. It's usually when I come in, when the way people are working together. Sometimes people, I don't know if you can see this in your workplace, but sometimes people or organizations create silos. Like there's that group over there who doesn't talk to that group over there. So we sabotage ourselves. Yeah, make sense? And so this conversation allows for understanding why we naturally do that. Not like there's something wrong with how we sabotage ourselves. Okay, so let's talk about marketing. And this is another thing I'm really passionate about. And the way I became very passionate about it is because I've been doing consulting for a good 10 years or so. And I was working for a very, for really, in some degree, a very large company. Really large company. They were doing over $100 million a year in training and development. So it's a pretty solid company. And I went up the ranks, and I was so proud of myself. Like Cecilia was saying, at some point I was selling newspapers at traffic lights, and all of a sudden now I'm a consultant, and in different countries, and for even government departments. And I became, this is kind of not quite humble, but I became good at what I do, right? And I've devoted my whole life to that. But the contract ended. How many of you had a contract to end? It's not a nice day. The contract ended, and I had a choice. Should I go and look for another consulting company, or should I start my own firm? And I thought, maybe I should start my own firm. And starting my own firm allowed me to distinguish something that I never had quite distinguished for myself. And those of you that do marketing, maybe you can relate to this. There is a world of difference between being good at something and marketing what you're good at. Like a world of difference. I'm going to say it again. There is a world of difference, like galaxies and stars, like a world of difference between being good at what you do and marketing what you're good at. The whole world is a completely different animal, if you will. And so I hope I can give a sense of the opportunity of that. Make sense what I just said? Because a lot of times we market our products by sharing how good we see our products. But it's not what the consumer is listening for. It's not what the consumer is listening for. The consumer is listening for, when the consumer wakes up in the morning, it's listening for what? What is the consumer listening for? When you and I wake up in the morning, what are we listening for? Solutions. We are looking for the problems we have. That's what everybody woke up in the morning with. You are here because you want your business to grow, right? That's why you're here, right? That's why I'm here. So one could say, when I woke up this morning, I had a problem to solve. So when you're marketing what you do, in some degree, we've got to start using a kind of language that speaks the language I have in my mind so that you can hook me. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Not really? You can say no, not really. Let's keep expanding. One of the things about human beings that is so critical to know when you're doing marketing is that decisions are based on 85% of emotions, backed by 15% of the facts, which we remember about 6% of them, but we remember 100% of how we felt. So when I'm doing marketing, what am I looking to do? What am I really looking to do if decisions are based 85% of emotion and I remember 100% of how I felt? What am I looking to do? Creating emotions in people? Exactly. Connect with an emotion.
Or determining what they really need.
No. I really like what you're pointing to. People, you and I we do not want what we need. We want what we want. It's an interesting thing to be, in the inquiry of when it comes to marketing. No, people don't wake up in the morning thinking, what do I need today? People wake up in the morning thinking, what do I want today? And they're usually looking for a particular emotion that gives them comfort, that makes them feel happy, that makes them feel free. And your products provide that, but we got to use the right language so that I can connect to that. Make sense? Mm-hmm. How many of you are always busy? You got to go this way, you got to go this way, you got to go this place. You're always busy, right? So if I wanted to market you, what do I say? Do you feel like you don't have enough time? And then I got a hook. I hook you. Because that's the need, that's the problem that particular person has. Does that make sense? I wouldn't say, hey, are you looking for a business coach? Nobody's looking for a business coach. Who's looking for a business coach? Who wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I was wondering, where is a business coach? No. People wake up in the morning saying, my team is not working and I'm losing money. So if I wanted to try to get the attention of a business owner, I wouldn't say, are you looking for a business coach? No, I would say,
You want to improve your team function.
are you losing money by your team not working together? And then that will call somebody's attention. Now that's on my industry, but you'll do the thinking for yourself. Make sense? So in other words, you don't want to go around selling how amazing your products are. You want to connect your prospect with an emotion. You want to connect them with a story. Forgive me with the spelling, I don't know what happened. So think about Apple. What is Steve Jobs was always doing? He was always sharing his mission, changing the world. So how many of you are Apple lovers? You guys are real fans. You're not like devoted to a device. You're devoted to the story. You're changing the world. You're part of a creative human beings. Make sense? And that creating some raving fans. This is another one that you want to look for when you're doing marketing. People are looking for solutions, not necessarily a product. So this is the price of a lettuce. And that's the price of a packaged lettuce. If I wanted to save money, I would go with this one. But what am I looking for?
Saving time.
Saving time. So I can charge more. So in your business, you want to start looking at those connections. How do I say something that connects at an emotional level with what people want? Whether it's freedom, whether it's fear, whether it's time, making more money, saving more money, being popular. That's what we all want. So marketing, it's all around that.
Especially social media.
Let's talk about social media. Oh, I love this one. This is what do you call this?
Drill.
A drill? A drill. How many of you are in the market looking for drills? Nobody is looking for drills. Those of you that are looking for drills are really looking to something to create a hole. Right? You're not. We want something that makes a hole. We don't want a drill. Right? So what am I going to promote? A drill? No, I'm going to promote something that makes holes. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's look at social media. Now, this social media is really interesting, and it has really supported my business, and it's really supporting a lot of people's businesses. There's about over 2 billion people on Facebook right now, right? 1 billion people on Instagram. And the technology, it's so powerful that you and I are hooked, and we're almost addicted to it. We can't help ourselves. Do you know why? Because it's the same technology that they had they use the same technology that they use for the casinos, they use it for your phone and my phone. Every time you put a like on something, you get a shot of dopamine in your brain. So that's why you and I are looking at that phone all the time. It's not like we are addicted people. It just creates that. And we can't help ourselves. How many of you got into your phone to look at something and 15 minutes later you still didn't do it and you were looking at something else? It's a shot of dopamine like crazy, right? So where is everybody? Everybody's on social media. Even when they're in the bathroom, they're in social media. So I want you to think.
Oh my gosh, that's the one thing though. I mean, people need to draw the line. Having phone conversations in the bathroom.
They're looking at something on social media. So I want you to think that when you think of social media, think of a highway. and everybody's in the highway. When people go to social media, what are they looking to do there? They're looking to get entertained, right? Nobody's going to social media because they're looking for a business. They're looking to be entertained. And 2 billion people are there. So think of yourself being in the highway, and social media gives you the opportunity for you to put a billboard so that you can hook people and call people's attention. You have them there, and Facebook is very nice to us. Facebook says, by the way, I can tell you what their interests are. So whatever you do, there is an interest, and you can go on Facebook and put their interest. Now, the key is, for you to build your business, the key is, what kind of a headline would you put on a post? That's the key. That's what has people go into your business. People are making millions of dollars understanding the right headlines. So I call those headlines hooks, or not I. The industry calls them hooks, something that entertains. Then you got to create a story that connects. And then you got to give them a call to action. The call to action is your website. The call to action is your landing page. The call to action is your product. And then what you do with those prospects will be a different conversation. Make sense?
Yeah.
This is definitely making people a ton of money. Those hooks, that story that connects, and that call to action. Very good. So that's what I have for you this morning. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. You're very generous with that. And I think I end with that.